Hello and welcome to another League of Legends tutorial and the third video already in our team fighting series. In this edition, we will be taking a look at the dynamic nature of team fighting as a mage. Mages are a distinctly different class to fighters as we go from mostly AD champions and fighters to AP champions and mages. This collective group, as shown in the client, all have some form of CC with the exception of Vladimir, as well as the ability to zone, poke, engage, and more. Remember, we will make our way through the rest of the classes of champions, so if you want me to keep going with this, let's see if we can once again reach 1,000 likes. As usual, I cannot possibly outline examples of every single mage, and as a bit more of a disclaimer at the intro of this video, I main Zyra, so she will feature, but the point of this video series is to outline the essentials and different situations that you can apply to your respective champion. We're trying to outline the essentials with in-depth examples, all in 10 minutes, so let's begin. We will take a look at a nice in-depth example of a solid mage teamfight that includes many of the aspects I discussed in this video, but I want to preface that example by saying that while Zyra has plans, Hammerdinger has turrets, Anivia has a wall, zoning and poking is a quintessential mage attribute and often can control and win fights with intelligent use of these skills. Taking away enemy HP before engages can win or lose you a fight. Letting a Xerath or Valkaz hit the enemy a few times will make the actual teamfight much more favorable for you, but most importantly, even after fights you can use your particular spell of choice, in my case plants, to steer enemies away from your team, away from your objective, and as they get impatient and greedy, you can lay on your CC to take them out. Even an ultimate used to create an area the enemy can't cross is most imperative in how you play your mages. Not everything has to be used on 5 people to try and one-shot all of them at the same time. Feel free to create choke points and separate enemies from their teams, as well as dishing out lots of damage at the same time. Creating these ultimate areas or zones to also peel and keep your enemies safe from the nefarious assassins such as Rengar or Zed is also something worth noting and to keep in mind. As you see here in this example, the Rengar jumps in, gets bounced around a bit and he dies, and we're able to turn the fight around because we were close enough and I just put the ult on me, and it forces their entire team to stay out of it while Rengar, well, he had to go in anyway, I guess. But let's now look at your ability to poke, slow, and CC, as it's one of the most important in fights that are not going your way. In this case, Nami and Misfortune tried to 2v2 a Heimerdinger and a Zyra, a most ambitious error. We turn immediately and were able to take out the Misfortune, but I'm lucky to live and must now position very carefully in order to avoid becoming a dead pup plant while also trying to help Heimer survive. Our top laner has died, of course, and Udyr goes way too deep and follows him. So all I'm trying to do in this situation is use my plants along with his turrets to create a perimeter or a zone where the enemy dare not cross for fear of being CC'd and bursted down. Again, imagine being a Valkaz and using Qs and Ws to create that space instead of plants. Once Zoe gets caught out, we are in full disengage mode, and using our CC items, poke to create distance enough for us to leave is crucial and something mages excel at. Using your spell range with something like Rylai's can also be enough to buy you time to escape more faster and nimble champions. And on the note of CC, using it on a priority target or important targets and accurately is very important for all mage players. And we'll see more of those CC and importance in the rest of the videos, so keep that in mind as you're watching all the clips. Briefly look at this example of Brand using his spell combo to keep the enemy big frontline at bay while burning them with his percentage HP damage, or the Anivia using her wall to frustrate the enemy constantly, and even trapping the enemy ADC within tower range to secure much needed kill. All this kiting back while using CC off cooldown can really disjoint the enemy team, which gives you favorable matchups and you're able to win long drawn out teamfights. Let's now look at this in-depth example where an Azir and Zyra use a full array of mage tools I've just mentioned to keep an enemy team at bay and have a game-winning teamfight. Notice that the fight starts with Azir using his soldiers to force Lulu to run in a straight line that allows the Jhin and Aurelia to chain CC her. This prompts the use of Yasuo's wind wall in order to block Jhin's ultimate, both notable cooldowns, all the while Lulu has had to burn her ult to ensure survival from Aurelia's dive. Azir continues to attempt to poke from the top side, while Zyra flanks on the bottom side in order to keep the enemy team close together. Now Zyra hits an E onto the enemy front line and activates her ultimate. This is entirely used as a zoning tool rather than pure damage to activate more powerful plants and also to keep the enemy team detached from her team, as you might have noticed, the enemy Rengar is attempting to flank from the top side in order to take out Jhin. The red team now clumps together and Azir brings his soldiers alongside Zyra's plants. Due to Zyra's ultimate separating the enemy team so much and Alawi taking a ton of poke damage from Azir and Zyra, Yasuo is eager to charge up his Q and hit his ult. He wants to go in with the same time as Rengar. Zyra sees this and realizes that the combination of this would probably be enough to let the enemy team win. Even though Zyra gets hit by the Yasuo Q, she has in turn rooted him, stopping his advance. This CC is crucial as it happens at the exact same moment Rengar jumps in. The blue team now wants to capitalize on the suction effect created by Rengar's engage, but because of the spacing created by Zyra and Azir, the red team can kill Rengar and now turn their attention to the rest of the enemy team. as of course the red team's Evelynn has finally showed up in what was a 4v5 fight. The eagerness of the blue team to try and all in with the Fed Alawi prompts Azir to use his ultimate finally in order to completely disengage and zone out the enemy. But at this point they've sort of been chasing the red team back while they've been poking and chipping away at their HP, whereas that hasn't happened for the blue team. Now it's simply a case for Azir and Zyra's team to simply chase down whatever target's in front of them. Careful target selection, make sure you're focusing the closest one to you, and then the next one, and then the next one. Yasuo's GA popping destines him to Helheim, while Zyra finishes off the Lulu and the fight is won. Azir's control, Zyra's double kill on the peel and on the Lulu, entire fight controlled by the mages, which allows their team to play around that and creates a perimeter the enemy team just cannot penetrate. Now of course all of you are saying, well, that's great, control mages are super fun, but where's the engages? Okay, well, let's look at those. Engaging as a mage is relevant to the style of your mage. A lot of mages do have that singular focus CC rather than something that's AoE, but that does have AoE capabilities. So for example, Taliyah can engage using her rock by separating the front line from the rest of her team, creating a zoning area, and that in turn engages the fight. Ahri can hit a clutch charm, Zyra can hit a clutch stun. Anything that CCs an enemy closest to your team where everyone can follow up and do a large amount of damage in a short period of time can count as an engage. With AoE champions like Zyra, perhaps Lissandra, you can flash in to hit a full rotation of spells, Zhonya's, survive, and then move off to the side as the enemy is slowed and are focusing on the other members of your team. But of course, if you don't have a Zhonya's, you might be in a precarious situation. If you don't kill someone, you might actually die, but as long as you can get off that full array of damage, that's great. But if you do survive, you can move off to the side. You do have to be aware that if you are fed, enemy assassins will come to flank you, and you should be ready to surprise the enemy actually with CC and exhausts. Just also be aware that that might not be the only attempt at trying to kill you, and you can win the fight simply by getting off enough damage before you die, and even hit them with a Death E to secure the kill. By taking out a target and forcing them to retreat from your plants or your zoning tools, whatever mage you are, while your team chases them down, is something very, very crucial. This kind of engage ability with CC and burst, flashing in, or even chasing down is what Brand and Valkyries also do very well. It's their ability to dish out AoE damage from behind from a blind angle, where something like Ahri will be more of an assassin in that situation. But then again, if you look at this flashback, old Zyra was also kind of an assassin, and I do miss those days. So if you're going to engage, you want that surprise factor, or to be consistently methodical. Hit your initial poke, hit the follow-up CC, if the target doesn't die, use your spells and the teammates to help secure it, while also zoning the other enemies away from you, which gives you a more direct target to focus. Hit your second round of CCs, and your next spells, chase him down, rinse and repeat. The fact that you can CC while dishing out burst is such a powerful mage tool, and of course this is all great if you're in a position of power or have a lead, but should you find yourself in a tighter game versus assassins or fed enemies, you must remember to keep your distances away from the shorter range melee champions that can take you out because of their shorter cooldowns and more immediate auto attack damage. And be careful not to get caught up in their CC or burst combos, or you're gonna have to flash away. You want to ensure that as a mage, specifically a mage like Zyra in this case, that for most fights where you aren't an engager or that they have divers, you want to be following up your tanks and fighters. You want to use your spells to zone, secure kills, but use that big body in front of you to protect yourself from damage while dishing out your own. Fighters and tanks will be dealing with everything right in front of them, and so they're not necessarily directly peeling for you, but you can use that body as a meat shield and pseudo peel just by having your own good positioning. And finally, if you do have an assassin going all in and being a bit crazy as they tend to be, take advantage of the enemy team having terrible focus and peel for your other damage dealers at the same time. Make sure to keep hitting those clutch crowd controls that let your team clean up as well. And finally, use your positioning. In and out gameplay, I've said it in all my videos now, it's such an important thing. Use it with your spell cooldowns and full awareness to turn bad situations into good turns. This is a hallmark mage trait. Many times the enemy will try engage, dive, assassinate, and if you can keep your distance, avoid their spells, and turn the fight around for yourself, you'll be able to pick up many more wins. Be sure to understand your respective champion combos and how to land them in order to maximize these clutch situations, but even if a Zed dives you in the back line, you can use well-timed flashes and a mage special, Zhonya's, to keep yourself alive. And of course, if you do have that damage spike or you need to help your team from a bad situation, flanking is something a mage can do. Ahri's, Lissandra's, Fiddlesticks, I know you all love coming from over the walls and just laying on that CC. Now Zyra isn't known as a flanking champion, but I was being eaten alive by this enemy team. They were just anti-Zyra, so I used my positioning to sort of disappear from the fight and come back in from behind, and I'm able to grab 2 kills, and that salvages the fight because my Trinity is currently, splitting, taking an inhib, and that's more than enough to help us win the game, so have good game sense at the same time. Alright, as you can see, a mage has definitely got a lot more diversity to the terms we use and what you can do as a mage, so I urge you to look at your own replays and see how your favorite champ lines up with some of these ideas and what you can do to better maximize your team fighting, as each mage is better at some things than others, from poking to zoning, engaging, and so on. Make sure you're hitting those skill shots and keep your distance and use your cooldowns intelligently. Thank you very much for watching this overview for Mage team fighting. Please like, comment, and share if you enjoyed. Please consider officially joining us on YouTube or see the description for how you can help support the channel further. Subscribe for more jungle and League of Legends tutorials coming soon, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.